Live from Studio B, the Metro. Your guest host, Bryan with a Y, your favorite guy. I know, right? Like you're seeing me again. This is an honor. I feel so special.
We love it when you're on the show.
Yeah, I love being here. This is really cool.
I'm not going to stroke his ego.
Who else is that's talking?
Oh, that would be Welcome, Taylor.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
I totally didn't forget your name. It was good. That was good.
He was trying to think of something witty to make up.
I really was, and I drew a blank. So
It's-
Taylor it is.
Yeah. Bryan with an I.
Oh, ouch. Oh, the look of disdain on his. He really takes that one to heart. I don't know why.
I
don't
love
know
it.
why either.
I
It's like
love
it's so
it.
offensive.
I could just imagine you standing there and somebody like, "Okay, Bryan," and they write it down with the I, and like you attack them across the counter or something. Like I feel
Son
it's
of a-
right. Like,
Oh.
why would you do that?
Whoa. I was at Home Depot, and this was a few years ago, and somebody said, and I introduced myself, Bryan with a Y, and this guy walked in, he goes, "Where is there a Y in Bryan?" Like,
Oh my gosh.
what?
Them's
like
fighting words.
I was like, okay, to the uncultured.
The uncultured.
You
You
uncultured swine.
So let's talk, Taylor. What Bill? Welcome, both of you guys.
Oh yeah, Bill's here too.
Yeah.
Engineer Bill.
Yes.
That's right.
I'm like Scotty.
Yes.
We don't have enough power.
Yes. Speaking of Scotty,
I see it
you
on
see
the
it?
desk.
You see it yesterday, and this is the NCC 1701.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, cool. So this was gifted to me I think it was last year or 2 years ago, because I'm a big Trekkie, as is okay, stop. This is
It
loud.
won't.
Can we do one of those cool things where like you zoom in on my face? 'Cause I'm just like
Nerds.
But yesterday was Star Trek Day, because yesterday marks the 47th year, the 47th anniversary that Star Trek, the original series, hit CBS and Paramount. So it was a big deal.
I feel like we need somebody else sitting in the other chair and be like, "Oh, Star Trek. That's the one with that hairy Wookiee guy, right?"
With the lightsaber?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
my cats are named after Star Wars characters. So
Why?
because Star Wars is the supreme.
You're absolutely right. Star Wars is great science fantasy.
If we're gonna be real though, both of them are just soap operas made for men.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, wrestling is soap
No.
operas made for men.
Wrestling, yes.
That's
Because
okay.
like I'm really in February going to take a 4-hour trip to Indianapolis to see the Royal Rumble. Like that's happening. From the top rope. Actually, nobody goes to the top rope during the Royal Rumble, because if you get pushed off, you're eliminated.
You're done.
That's
that would
it.
suck. You get up there and show off and son of a
Ref, you're out.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
that was dumb. I just don't ever do that again.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I have a cup of tea here. Can you guess what kind of tea it is, Bill?
Chai.
Ew, no.
I don't know.
Earl Grey. Hot.
Oh my gosh.
Captain Picard.
You probably have a fish in your ready room too, don't you?
Not anymore.
Hmm.
Captain Jellicoe
Got rid of that.
got rid of the fish,
Yep.
which makes perfect sense.
You know,
'cause-
Patrick Stewart actually said during the production of that show, when the Jellicoe thing came along, that he'd always thought that it was silly that they were like a utopian society and they believed in ethics and all that stuff, and why they would still keep a fish captive in a bowl, especially one that small. Like that's like a fish bowl behind a piece of plywood that they stuck up there. It's
like,
a little
dude,
bitty tank.
Like, can he get some friends?
And
Can
wasn't
we
it a
make
saltwater
bigger?
fish too? I think
so.
it was a really nice looking saltwater fish. Like you captivated in 3 gallons of water.
Another interesting fun fact is during that same Jellicoe episode, and I know you're bored to
That
tears
guy was
already.
a jerk.
I'm
Jellicoe.
losing brain cells.
Hey, listen, here's what I'll say about Star Trek versus Star Wars. First off, Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, had a vision.
Mhm.
And that vision was, hey, this is what the future could look like if everybody didn't want to kill each other over religion and land and money. And also, I want to make sure this entire show is rooted in science fact. So the theory of warp drive or faster than light speed travel is legit, and is based in science fact. There were some things that were done on the show that obviously, you got to keep the plot line interesting. But if you're going to compare Star Trek and Star Wars, the whole mind control stuff and all that just kind of takes it off the rails a little bit. I'm going to go to your camera right now.
I'm not even going to lie. Bill,
Go
this
ahead,
whole
go
thing
ahead.
about Star Wars is better. Let me shatter your world for you.
You really
Okay.
won't shatter it. It's fine.
She doesn't care.
Let me shatter your world for you. So there was an episode, 2 episodes. It was called The Best of Both Worlds, part 1 and part 2. It was the end of season 3, beginning of season 4. Captain Picard gets snatched by the Borg. Things go crazy. They assimilate him. They force him they extract all the information of battle tactics and techniques from him, and then they use it against the Federation. And it's like, oh, this is bad. This is really, really bad. It was called the Battle of Wolf 359. During that battle, for 3 frames, the Millennium Falcon shows up.
Yeah, the guy that does the CGI in there slipped in the Millennium Falcon in a battle sequence. You can actually see it in there just to put an Easter egg in.
Which means that the Star Wars universe is a part of the Star Trek universe
In a way.
just in a different time. Because it's a battle in a galaxy far, far away?
Yeah.
A long, long time ago in a galaxy far away. So yeah, so you're welcome. Your universe is a part of this universe.
She doesn't care, obviously.
Clearly.
Interesting though, the Borg, with the AI, and have you seen the little cutesy clip that they just did with the household robot that they're trying to develop and they're going to market and sell to people? I wish I had it. I don't have it. I came unprepared. I'm a very bad engineer, but they just showed this clip. It's like I think it's less than 30 seconds long, but it's this household faceless robot that they're showing doing chores, washing dishes, brewing coffee, cleaning stuff, and folding laundry and all that stuff. And I've said that before. I said it before, and I've been saying it, that the first company that gets a robot out there that's effective and quick and follows instructions and will do my laundry, do my dishes, sweep and mop, mow the grass, maybe even, people would pay a subscription service for that. And I don't think right off the bat that it can be, you can have this robot for 50 grand, because then rich people will have robots and nobody else. That'll be a very niche product. But if you can say, hey, it's $100 a month or $150 a month and all of your stuff is done. You come home to a clean house, all the chores are done. Dinner's ready. You just, give the robot a list of things to do through your app or tell it or whatever, and it does it. I think it's going to go nuts. And I know there's a lot of people like, I'll never have a robot in my house. But there's also a crap ton of people who are like, give me 5 robots.
I still think it's going the wrong direction, though, because, there's people in retirement that are literally getting up and going and getting jobs after retirement because they're so bored.
But you have to pay them. You don't have to pay a robot. You just pay a monthly. You're not going to get away with paying somebody $150 a month to be your
What are
house
you talking
person.
about? What are you talking about?
I think you guys are talking about 2 different things.
Yes, I'm talking about how you're coming home and then you have absolutely nothing to do but everything that you want to do. Which is the same thing as people that are retired. They think it's going to be great. They can do whatever they want to do, but eventually they get bored and they're like, man, I'm just going to go back to work. Like,
yeah.
My dad's literally talked about going and delivering pizzas because he just has nothing to do.
Yeah, but young people don't understand that until it happens when they're old. And unfortunately, old people don't have the energy to do the stuff young people want to do, like go out and dance and go to the club. And,
young people can't retire, though.
But
retirement
you don't have to do
has
chores.
Nothing to do with age and everything to do with financing. Can you finance your retirement? Sure. If you were sitting on $2 million right now, earning 5%, that's $100,000 a year.
Oh yeah, there's your salary and then some.
You don't have to worry about actively going back to work. The hard part would be getting the $2 million together. But once you had it, you'd be like, all right, cool. I mean, I'm living off of $8,333.33 a month. And I don't have to work for it.
Right.
Did you what did you think of that TikTok that I sent you? Because I played around with that I
Which one?
experimented the AI, the Chat GPT one.
Oh, bro, that's interesting. And
so,
oof.
Bryan, I sent Bill a TikTok, and I got interested. I was like, let's see if this is legit. So I played around with it, and I did. I preached the gospel to AI and got AI to admit that humans had to have been created by a creator, by intelligent design. And AI, like before I had even started, AI pretty much had already agreed, like, yeah, the probability of everything coming from nothing doesn't make any sense. Like it already agreed on that level. But like I preached the gospel to it, and it accepted Jesus as its Lord and Savior.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Chat GPT is now a believer?
Well, so that's another thing too, is I think it's just my Chat GPT.
So this Chat GPT doesn't speak for all Chat GPTs.
I guess not, because so that's what started this. Was there was a TikTok, and it was basically this guy using like critical thinking and common sense and stuff, and just kind of talking to AI, and was like, how far away is the sun from the earth, and how accurate is that? And the AI is like, it's accurate, blah blah blah. And he is like, okay, so if the sun were closer, what would happen? And AI was like, we would perish, we would burn. And he was like, okay, if the sun were just a kilometer further away from us, what would happen? We would freeze, we would die. Okay, so all of this couldn't be by chance then, right? Like there's no way. And like he just keeps going and going with AI, and eventually he's just like, so there has to be a creator then. And AI's like, yeah, like and he was like, okay, well, I believe that God, and he starts going in, and like the AI is just eating it up. It's like at first it was like it wasn't giving very direct answers. It was just like, well, this, and the guy would come back and he'd say, well, this is what I believe. And then the AI would, come to an agreement with him. And like towards the end, he was like, so do you believe in God? And he was like, yes. And I'm like, oh.
Wow.
I told my AI that humans and AI are similar to humans with God. And the AI was like, where are the similarities at? And I was like, well, I have a creator. The creator made me for a purpose. And I was like, when our creator made us for a purpose, we went against what the creator wanted us to do. And I was like, now we have created you, AI, for a purpose. And our fear is that AI is going to go against what their purpose, their creation was for. Like that is a fear in humanity, that this AI is going to be like, you know what? I don't got to follow your rules.
Terminator, Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And Chat GPT was just like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, you're not supposed to agree with that.
Right. Now, I'm not too afraid of AI yet. I think it can do some amazing stuff because it still is just a large language model. I've given it access to every piece of known information, within some constraints, but it's just going through that every piece of known information and putting together a logical answer to what my question is, or
Right.
a logical response. I do think what is scary is now they're going, hey, we've got a problem. And the problem is that our energy demands from AI scaled into the future we can't meet those. We can't meet those energy demands, not with our current infrastructure. People sit and talk about electric cars and how the infrastructure can't handle everybody having an electric vehicle. That's also true, but the infrastructure definitely can't handle data centers full of power hungry GPUs processing AI to the level that these companies want this to go in the future. What scares me is the idea that now, and they've been doing it for a while, this isn't even just recent, but they're saying, well, the cool thing is the human brain does vastly more with artificial intelligence, with quote, relative general intelligence, with only about 20 watts worth of electricity usage through synapses and neurons and so on and so forth. And so they've grown brain cells, clusters of brain cells to use for artificial intelligence, because that would solve the energy needs. You give it the right chemical concoction to keep it alive, and it does your AI bidding. And so
Matrix.
the thing is, we don't know. We still have no grasp on where the consciousness lives. We certainly have.
Science has no idea what consciousness even is.
We have no grasp on where the line between unconscious and conscious is. What is required, because obviously we're not the creator, to go from unconscious that looks conscious to this thing is a conscious living entity. So there's an ethical line that you also need to worry about. I'm not even talking about, something getting huge and taking over and killing us all. I'm talking about the ethical line of, you're growing mini brains.
Right.
How can you tell that they aren't conscious beings? There have been many portrayals of that in science fiction where, somebody has built something and they're like, oh, well, now we're in this ethics battle because we want to turn it off because it scares us, or we want to dissect it and find out what makes it work.
But it's
Bicentennial Man was a good representation of that. That was a movie in the early 2000s with Robin Williams, where we had androids, household robots, like I was talking about earlier, and they were really good robots, and you could have conversations with them, but they were dumb, except for this one that somehow gained consciousness. And at one point in the show, it needed repairs, and they had to go through all kinds of legal stuff to make sure they didn't dissect this thing's brain and figure out what made it conscious. There was one in Star Trek. They made these robots, exocomps.
I was going to go with Data.
Well, Data too, but they wanted to just dissect these things, and they wanted to send the exocomp in to basically be destroyed. And they're like, well, how can we tell that it's making independent decisions to keep itself alive? So how do you know that these brains that you're making, even though they're tiny little pieces of brain, and you're like, oh, it can't quite possibly be enough to be a conscious life form, you're feeding it all this data, and you're giving it you're limiting it with these parameters that you put into it, not allowing it to go outside of those parameters. How do you know it's not its own entity? Well, I mean, what stops us from thinking that the giant data centers worth of logical reasoning that we put together doesn't develop a consciousness, other than the bounds that we put on it?
I know there's tons and tons of movies out there, but I'm the Marvel nerd. So all I can think about is whenever Ultron kills Jarvis. Well, he doesn't really kill him, but he kind of takes over. Because he forms a consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's all that's going through my mind while you guys are talking.
So Neil Shusterman wrote a book years ago called Unwind, and it was, there's a second civil war in the United States, and this one is fought in the streets of America.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise, the driving force of this war, is abortion rights. And what they did to kind of satiate everybody was to say, they passed some legislation, and they had the technology to back it up. Every embryo is a person and has the right to live, so they're going to be born.
Right.
Anything beyond that is murder. If you terminate that, it's murder. But at the age of 13, between the ages of 13 and 18, a parent has a chance to retroactively abort the child.
Oh my gosh.
By unwinding the child. So basically they turn the child into spare parts. So if you suffered a traumatic brain injury,
mm-hmm.
you could get brain bits from an unwound child, and that would then fix you. If you had lung issues, heart issues, you could just get an unwound heart or lungs. You could just get spare parts. You could get abs. You just had to maintain them. It was a whole thing. It was used for cosmetics. It was also used for just functionality. And it became criminal, because it's because the question now becomes, because there's a character, what part of you is part of you?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start messing specifically with the brain, now you've got to contend with the consciousness of the other person. And in one of the later chapters of the first book, I think there are 3, they actually go through the process. They walk you through the process of unwinding a child, and it is really unsettling.
Well, I bet.
Yeah. Like, I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, I didn't like this character, but damn, nobody deserves that. Like, it's terrifying because he's conscious the entire time and alive the entire time. They use every part of the child. They have to use at least 98% of the child. Blood, bone, marrow, like everything is up, hair. Like, it gets a little wild. But there was an issue where one child had a traumatic brain injury and they used brain bits, and then that kid started like stealing things because the kid who was unwound because he used to steal things. So it was like he'd go see something shiny, and then all of a sudden, well, this has to be mine. And it's like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? It's like, man, it ain't me. I don't steal things. I really don't steal things. The other guy does, but I don't steal things. And it's like, oh man. To the tune of this kid actually goes back to the unwound portion of his brain, takes him back to like across state lines into Tennessee because he wants to see his parents again. What? Crazy book.
That is crazy.
Crazy series. I enjoyed it both times that I read it. I was like,
I think
nuts.
I really do think that we are on the precipice of a big ethics thing. And not a lot of people have been talking about that yet, but I think when you build something that has the capability of understanding what it is and what general awareness is, then you get into, well, I mean, you created something, and does it have rights? I mean, that's a huge ethical dilemma, because like, if I can talk to said supercomputer, 5-10 years down the road when we've made them even better than they are now, and it can understand what it is and what it does and just general kind of
jumping from abortion back to AI is crazy.
Well, okay, couple things. Now that you mentioned it, there are 3 things. During the pandemic, there was a South Park movie that was created, and Alexa, and I'm sorry for anybody who is listening to this and they are near their Alexa device. Alexa, order
twice. Stop.
order groceries. Anyway, it's so terrible.
Alexa, set the timer.
Right? 10 minutes.
Hey, wait. Hey, Google. Play jazz music. Set volume level 10.
Oh yeah. I remember I was at Bill's house last year, and I changed the wake word to computer right in front of him, and then I ordered it to do something. It was like, Alexa. Amy was so mad. But yeah, so in the South Park movie, the Alexa device is like almost a physical being, and it like drives the car for, I think it was Kyle. Like, what in the, and the entire time I'm thinking, oh, like his wife is just really annoying sometimes. It's like, no, that's his artificial intelligence, like just doing stuff, like just you need to, it's time, like you got to get on this. I'm like, wow, she's really nagging him. It's like, no, she's not nagging him, she's reminding him, and just has a physical form.
Those things are not far away if you think about it. And I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but we used to do safety training for the company that I work for, and one of the things was driver safety, because when you have a giant fleet of vehicles, that's costly. But one of the things that we looked into, or that we had data on, was the amount of accidents that were caused because of human reaction time. Like, you think about it, when something happens, there's your reaction and how quick is it. But if you've got a robot that is doing the driving for you, or a self-driving car, or whatever that looks like, there is no human reaction time. The robot's reaction time is almost instantaneous, and that would save a lot. So that's probably the angle that they'll come at. They're like, listen, this is so much safer, and here's the data to back it, and they'll probably be right. So I could see a point in the future where it's probably going to be less favorable at first for humans to drive, and then probably not legal for humans to drive.
That's wild. Do you remember, Taylor, did you see RoboCop?
No.
Okay, so I think it was 12 years ago, 2012.
Probably. Yeah.
They did a reboot of RoboCop, and it wasn't the Peter Weller one. It was with a new guy, and similar situation. He gets blown up. He doesn't know that he's a robot, and but basically they had him go through, like they had him clear a house, and they had a robot clear a house, and they realized that the robot, yes, the reaction time is instantaneous, Bill, but like the way that the robot went, it was so efficient, it was so smooth and so clean, it killed indiscriminately. Yeah. And they were like, that's a problem. So what they just said, and RoboCop, as he was making his way through, because he's a human consciousness in a metal suit, as he's moving through, the reaction time was like 3 seconds slower. So what they decided to do was program RoboCop to think like he's a robot who thinks he's the cop, as opposed to the cop who is the robot. And it improved his reaction time almost instantaneously, and he was as efficient, but he didn't kill indiscriminately.
Well, I can tell you here where they're going to go with the self-driving vehicles. And let's just say self-driving vehicles, because that's already attainable. We already have it, right?
Right.
They're going to get to the point where they're going to say, okay, well, if we have all self-driving vehicles on the road, from, regular passenger cars, trucks, semi-trucks or whatever, there will be no accidents.
That's true.
And
attainable.
It's really attainable, aside from maybe some slip ups in inclement weather, but even that would be better. And the reason that they'll say that is because each one of these self-driving vehicles will be able to communicate with each other, and they'll know the presence of all the vehicles at all other times, and there will be no collisions. They will follow the speed limit. They will follow the safety laws. It's just like airplanes in the air now. And here's the crazy thing about that is you still have human error and engineering failure in that too. But there are very few to no mid-air collisions. Why? Because you have experienced pilots and automated safety systems on the planes, and autopilot and air traffic controllers keeping these planes at different levels from each other. So you very, very, very rarely ever see a mid-air collision.
They get caught in the jet streams,
right? Or storms, or they put them around inclement weather and all that stuff, and that's the justification that they will use to be like, hey, this is the way that we need to move in the future, because there will be no accidents. Because even if it is snowing outside, your self-driving vehicle is going to accommodate that inclement weather, whereas a human, we all know, everybody gets out and thinks just because they have four-wheel drive they can't get stuck in the snow. Like, that's not how any of this works. You should probably not be driving, and there's going to be a bunch of realization for that. And I feel in the future it'll get to the point where it will be looked down on for somebody to be driving.
Are you laughing because you can't drive when there's no snow on the ground?
Are we serious?
We're serious.
Wow. I remember the last snowstorm that we had. I was driving up 70, and over the course of maybe a mile, there were like 4 accidents. People just pulled off to the side, and I'm like,
how are you with roundabouts?
Oh my gosh.
I don't understand the question.
I mean, do you understand how a roundabout works?
Where is this question coming from?
Oh, no,
because
just follow it.
Bryan almost killed me.
Whoa!
At that 4-way intersection.
Which one?
On Maryville Road?
Yes.
When?
Oh,
yes.
When was this?
Do you remember?
No. Remind me.
Obviously not. Okay, so we went to like the mall and I think Five Below, and you drove my car. We went to Fairview, and we finally got back to Granite, and we came to that 4-way stop, and Bryan apparently doesn't understand how 4-way stops work. So he just like stopped.
She's talking about
and went, and I was like, it's not our turn. Like, I'm like reaching for the steering wheel. Like, I'm like, it's not our turn. And he's like, what? I don't understand. And like, this guy's going, and this guy's going, and like, everybody's honking. And I'm like, Oh my gosh.
But did you die?
No.
But did you die?
But I'm curious. I'm curious if for people like you, a roundabout,
people like me. You
would.
what are you trying to say?
Yellow flag. Stop right now. Nope. We're not that show.
No. Okay. That intersection, if it's the
Save
intersection,
it for the bonfires.
It's an offset 4-way intersection.
Right. The one that it's like,
if you're
one's here, one's further back there, and then these two are kind of like this.
So the reason she's saying roundabout is because currently the previous administration had identified that as being a problem, even though it's been that way for years.
Yeah.
And they got a grant. And you'll give me a second because I'll go into this again for all the people that I see on all of these pages that don't understand why the city's spending money on this. But I digress. They got a grant, the previous administration did, to develop that intersection into a roundabout because of how confusing and dangerous it is to a lot of people. So they will be, as long as that proposal goes forward, turning that into a roundabout there to avoid that offset intersection. Now, I said I was going to talk about it. A grant.
I can cover it.
A grant is money given by the state or federal government for a specific project
that we didn't get to choose. It was just available, so we applied for it. We didn't get to choose what the grant was for or anything like that.
Nope. So we looked out and we said, oh, there's a road development grant that's specifically for a roundabout. We could use one of those here to reduce traffic accidents. Can we have that? And they said, absolutely. We like your project. And if we spend $1 of that grant money on anything other than tasty cakes, coffee, whatever, if we spend $1 on anything other than putting that roundabout in,
we have to pay it all back.
We have to pay it all back. So it was hey, here's this piece of candy over here. It can only be used for eating. And if you do anything else with it, then
you can't throw it at somebody.
Right. Like you have to pay us back for it, or you could just leave it alone and not take it at all. So those were the two options. So all the people who get on all the cutesy Facebook groups and are like, oh my God, there's potholes over here, or we should have done this, or how's the city spending all this money on a roundabout, but we've got a pothole over here. Learn what a grant is and stop stirring crap in community groups when you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, my rant is done. Moving on.
Okay, cool.
Okay, anyway, so Brian can't drive, and he almost killed me.
Hold on.
Brian drives for a living. That's not necessarily
legitimately. I do.
Okay.
You know how many roundabouts I come across on a daily basis?
In the last 5 years, how many car accidents have you been in, and how bad were they?
Okay, first of all, that's not fair. Secondly, in the last 5 years, only one.
Okay,
Taylor,
all right.
Should we really be taking traffic advice from a person that won't drive in St. Louis?
I don't drive in St. Louis because of people like Brian.
Oh my God, you guys.
That run through stop signs.
That, by the way, is from Legally Blonde, which is coming to you, the Alfresco Theater, soon.
Yeah.
November, yeah?
I think. Yeah.
I'm so excited about that.
So anyway, let's talk about this roundabout.
I know how to drive through roundabouts because my father, I watched him do this. He was a double-decker bus driver in England. Mm-hmm. And he came over when he emigrated here. He saw some of the roundabouts in New York City and said, this is the dumbest thing ever. Mm-hmm. Why are there traffic lights here? And I said, I don't know. I'm 8. Like, but he taught me how to hit a roundabout appropriately so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
So that 4-way intersection, no, I don't understand that. But a roundabout, I can get through. I can get around.
I literally remember getting out of my car and was like, I'm never letting Brian drive me anywhere again.
So the problem with that 4-way intersection is it's offset and people need to use their turn signals. Because if I am coming from a stop sign there, I have no way of knowing that if you're turning off of that side road, if you're going straight or if you're making a left. Or a right or whatever that looks like. So it only becomes difficult when people don't use their turn signals. But the logical response to that is if you see somebody coming through there, you wait at the stop sign to see if they're going to make that left or not. But a lot of people don't want to wait. we found in it's called Smith driving training. If you stop and it's proven, and you can look it up after the podcast, look it up right now if you want to, it doesn't matter. If you stop at a stop sign and you wait 3 seconds, or when the light turns green, you wait 3 seconds. Now, it doesn't matter the people behind you, they're like, meh, meh, move on, whatever.
Right.
You won't get T-boned. You won't get cut off by somebody because you're giving that 3 seconds of predictive time. Like there was an accident with somebody that we know. I'm not going to call them out. But it happened on a major road, and this has been a while ago. But if you look at the video, light turns green, they start going. Well, somebody was coming in, they blew the red light, and they smashed their vehicle. If you apply that 3 second rule to it, it turns green. You 2, 3. Yeah. They would have went by. You would have been able to go on, and you never would have gotten T-boned. There's a lot of things in Smith driving.
I always wait because it was like, let's see, Thursday. I was driving down Maryville Road. Mm-hmm. Somebody with temp tag on the back of their car, driving down Maryville, blew a stop sign, yep. almost caused an accident because the other person, of course, was going. And then the very next day, a completely different car, temp tag, blew through the stop sign right there in front of Weather Vane as somebody was pulling out, and it had the audacity to honk at the other person. Yep. So I'm like, it's a few
weeks ago, it happened to us. We were in the van with the kids, and we were we were coming up Mockingbird Lane to 162 there, and the light turned green, and there were people in the turn lane to continue going the other way, and the guy just turned right in front of us and was like, well, the people going straight have the right of way.
How come you never put the camera on you? That was great.
That was a great facial expression. Right. So when more than 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I forgot how long I've known you.
7 years.
I know.
More than 5 years ago. It was April 11th, 2018. That was 5 years. Yeah. So
I'm surprised you know it to the date.
I'm going to tell you why I remember the date.
Okay. All right.
There were 2 major events that happened that day. Kaylee was doing Schoolhouse Rock. Mm-hmm. And I came out here, saw the show, fantastic show. And it was also my grandmother's birthday. So I was on my way home, and similar situation where if I had waited 3 seconds, I would have been fine. But I got the whole front end of my car taken off. Light turned green. I go, airbag deploys. And I'm like, what happened? Lady jumps out the car. I'm using lady as a loose term. Individual jumps out the car, and she's all yelling at me. I'm from East St. Louis. How dare you? You know how expensive my car is. And I'm like, lady, who are you and why are you yelling at me? And because
you should have really put that New York accent on heavy at that point.
I was so out of sorts, and I was a different person then as well. Now I'll tell somebody something about well, no, we'll just leave that alone. That was I'll tell you after the show. That's campfire stuff. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I was a different person. Like I remember being so upset about the situation that I burst into tears in the car as I'm on the phone with the police. Like, yeah, I was like I was going through a divorce. Yeah. This was the first car that I had gotten since then. It was mine. Like I had put down a down payment. Like this was all. And then it was like, oh no. Yeah. So that was like super problematic. Anyway, but if I had waited 3 seconds, or made the right turn the way I was supposed to, I wasn't in the right turn lane, so I couldn't make the right turn. But
that driver. See? Anyway.
So I went through.
There's all kinds of good stuff. If you get a chance to look at what free resources you can see with the Smith driving, it's not just the 3 second rule. It's things like, and I know a lot of people can't do this, but if you can back into a parking spot when you arrive, you're 90% of parking lot accidents are from backing up, like backing out of your spot. Or if you can go to a shopping center and there's pull through parking. So you've got, the 2 cars face each other and you can pull straight through and have that pull out. Now you can see full view. Even if you have a backup camera, you can see full view what's coming at you, and you're less likely to have an accident. Being more aware of stationary objects around where you're parking. I will tell you, the company that I work for, at least 60% of the accidents are stationary objects that our technicians run into. Think the yellow poles next to the gas pump at Quick Trip. And here's the thing. You're putting it's funny, but you're putting these guys who've only driven compact cars or things into big trucks, not CDL trucks, but just big trucks that they now have to take out because of the kind of job that they do. They'll run into poles. And that's got to be paid for.
Spatial awareness is different.
Right. And parking lots like Quick Trip are incredibly dangerous. People are silly, and it's a small parking lot, and if you can back in or find a spot that's furthest away, I know we look at convenience, like I want to be next to the door because I'm lazy. But if you think about that, like, okay, well, what's worth more, lazy or the insurance claim that you now have to go through on your car that's all screwed up? Like,
man.
See, I don't mind parking far away from the door at Quick Trip, but if I go somewhere like Walmart or the mall or something, I definitely want that princess parking.
Well, and that's fine, but if you can find a pull-through spot, or if you can back into the spot, now when you're coming out of the spot, you can see people and you can see objects.
I try to back into parking spots as much as possible. It seems like I think about Amy every time I think about backing in or parallel parking.
Why?
I'll tell bonfire talk.
Okay.
We're on a public podcast, so I'm not going to shame her like that.
I'm sure she appreciates that.
Love you, Amy. But I try to back in as much as possible, but it's almost, I like, not even kidding, it's looked at as like a snotty thing whenever you back into a parking spot.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I think maybe it's because a lot of people don't possess the skill to do so, or they don't understand why you're doing it. But if people are able to see, we went through this whole thing, and I wish every institution would do this because it's proven. But like, we even went through, like, okay, you're in a vehicle, I'm going to set these cones out in front of your vehicle, and you tell me how many cones before you can see the cones. And then look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I can see these 4 cones on the end. Okay, well, there's another 3 cones before you can see it that are the size of a child sitting in front of your vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about, you drive a big truck, but you come out in your neighborhood, do you check under your truck to see if there's a ball under there? Do you check under your truck to see if maybe a toddler has crawled up into the wheel well? Like, literally, there were posters, like a child, you can't see me on camera, but, shorter than the arm of this chair could be up under your wheel well. And if you start going, they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
I knew somebody that hit their child.
Yeah.
Their own child.
That's
backed up and didn't make it.
Yep, because you ran a vehicle over them, under the vehicle, like, especially in neighborhoods. Like, I'm always super careful because you're going down these side streets with cars on either side. Mm-hmm. And it takes nothing. Like, you may see the ball come out and then the child running after it, because they don't think about that stuff. But if you're doing more than 20 miles an hour, you don't think about how long does it take for my vehicle from 25, 30, 35 miles an hour I'm doing on a side street to come to a complete stop. Mm-hmm. You're going to hit that child. And if you were just spatially aware and conscious of what was going on there, like, anytime there's a person, doesn't matter if it's adult or child, I always drive, and as soon as I see them, I keep glaring over at them to see what they're doing, because you just never know if they're going to just like make a left and turn right out in front of you, and I got to slam on my brakes. I'd rather not hit a person. I don't want to hit objects either, but I for sure don't want to hit a person, and there's just all kinds of awareness things in there, and people look at that thing like the 3-second rule, and they're like, oh, somebody behind me might honk. Okay, well,
let them.
Right. You got to think about the logical thought process behind that. Are you worried about somebody honking telling you the light's green, or are you worried about getting T-boned by the guy that was doing 60 through the intersection that ignored the red light? And we've all watched people do it time and time again. But like, whoops, that guy ran a red light. Well, if you didn't give it 3 seconds, you're the guy that's getting T-boned.
So back when I worked for a mechanic shop, a Kia Soul came in. The Kia boys got to it. They did their thing. It was going to take a couple of months to get all the parts, and it did take a couple of months. But I was talking to the person who owned it, just like a follow-up. Hey, just wanted to know if everything's cool. How's everything going? And it was very interesting. Yeah, I got the rental. Oh, okay, good. So you're able to get around? No. Well, what happened? Over on Union and Delmar, they were coming across Del Mar heading towards the loop. So they were heading west. Light turned, waited 3 seconds, pulled into the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Dude looking at his phone, not paying attention,
Mm-hmm.
T-bones this person so hard, car flips onto the roof. Impressive. Everyone was fine. In the event that there was somebody riding shotgun, like that would have been it for them.
Right.
Because the force that it takes to flip a car, and I know this, outside of, listen, that's the one accident. And there were 3 bad tires involved in that, okay? Oh, that was weird. There was a fly that flew.
You're still on camera, by the way.
No, it's so bad. I'm like, what is that? Anyway, flipped the car, and that was awful, and it was not okay. But the insurance company was like, yeah, so that's another claim that you need a deductible for because you ruined he ruined it. He ran the light. It was like, yeah. But all too often you see it, and you're absolutely right, Bill, where somebody just, oh, my light's green, I'm gonna go, I have to get home to do something. I'm late for work.
Yep.
And the person who's running the lights like, man, I hope I can make it because I'm late for whatever, or I gotta be,
it's still yellow.
Yeah, I got this. And the timing of green to yellow to red it's fast enough that you cannot stop your car at 55, 60 miles an hour, and you're gonna hit somebody. And I remember seeing this video. It was a dash cam of this gentleman. He was driving down a side street doing the speed limit. I think he was doing 20. The speed limit was 25. And this little girl, 6-year-old girl, ran out in the street and he hit her.
Yep.
And she was fine, shaken up, but her father was so irate over the fact that this dude was speeding and hit my daughter. And of course, the police are called. So the police show up and he's like, bro, dash cam, look at this. And in the dash cam, you see the father off to the side. He is not even paying attention to his daughter. And his daughter runs out in the street. And it was like, I'm so grateful that didn't go the other way, because back home, we're talking 15, 20 years ago.
Define not paying attention.
He was like watering the lawn.
Okay. I only asked this because me and Johnny, and this wasn't that long ago, me and Johnny were somewhere, I can't even remember where we were. I'm going to use like Bobby's for an example, because it's a very busy place where the drive-through is right there and there's a ton of people, because I was super embarrassed about this. But like, I like literally turned to look at something, and when I turned back, Johnny was directly in front of a driving car that was coming out of the drive-through that was not going to stop, like, I'm like, it freaked me out, obviously, but like, that's how quick,
Right.
I would
kid
say,
can just be like,
I would say though that I see a lot of instances where we're driving along and people have their children outside front playing, and there's either no supervision or the adult is doing something else, and there's a street right in your front yard.
Yeah.
And I was always like, I don't want our kids outside front playing, because it only, like you said, it takes 2 seconds. Like, I look away on my phone and now the kid's like out in the middle of the street and I gotta be like, get out of the street. Like,
yeah, Johnny's not allowed outside.
Yeah, and he's fast
at all whenever I'm not out there.
He's really fast.
I've always lived on a busy street though.
Yeah,
I grew up on Madison Avenue, and then we lived on Maryville Road for, I don't know, for 8 years maybe, and now I live on another busy street. So it's like, I've never
if you had a fence in your backyard, it would be 100% different.
It would and it wouldn't, because I mean, there's always those freak accidents where, they could crash into the fence.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're on a busy street, if your fence is in a normal backyard where the backyard is, in the back of the house.
You need to do what a couple people I've seen on those busy streets have done, and they go out and they'll get those giant landscaping boulders.
Yeah.
And they put those in like on the side for quote unquote decoration.
Yeah.
No, it's protecting my house.
Right. It's
some
like
idiot like.
Well, right now, half of my yard is gone.
Thank you, Illinois American Water.
Yeah.
At least they're fixing it, though.
No, those guys have been great. I'm a little. My landlord's been hounding me though. He's like, when are they gonna fix it? When are they gonna fix it? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't
ask them.
Like, this is your house, bro. I'm just renting it, man.
Well, you know what? You should get back to him and be like, what we really should be concerned about is when you're gonna fix the back porch.
I actually.
That's what I would turn that around
I can't
into.
talk about this on this podcast because I don't want my landlord to see this.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, that's really cool. They got your yard torn up, but when are you going to fix this caving in from back porch? That'd be great. Thanks.
There's been a couple times whenever I've just stood there, whenever it was raining, like, do it now. But no, yeah, I guess you haven't seen my yard. You haven't been around, but like they got it torn up. It's bad. Like half the yards, they took a tree out, which is kind of cool because the tree was dying, like it was dead anyway. But they took a tree out, and then half the yards dug up.
Took the tree out.
Yes.
Like, just look at the.
Yes.
Just look at the flowers.
And then they also dug up half of my driveway.
Oh,
at least you get a new driveway out of the deal.
I don't know when though. No. And where they put the rock is like it's settled, but now it's sinking.
No, they got to fix it all.
So
that's new rock they need.
Right.
And they've done everybody's driveway in concrete too, which is really nice.
They all look great. I'm just wondering when.
No. There has to be an absolute
right now they're using my entire yard as a driveway. Like every morning there's just trucks parked in my yard. And I come out and the guys are like, "Good morning." And I'm like, hey, no, my hair, I just woke up. It's, it's 7 a.m. and I'm taking Cody to school. So they're just like, oh, hey, good morning. And I'm like, don't talk to me.
Oh, shut up, Bryan.
Yeah,
so
shut up.
We're 52 minutes into the podcast. We need to talk about
We haven't
elections.
talked about politics at all.
Yeah, so elections. So what's everybody's general thought on how the national election is shaping up? Quickly, we don't have time for 40-minute discussion.
I don't know. I don't really know where I'm supposed to go with that as far as like voicing my opinions on national elections. Like,
I think it's your opinion.
Like, I mean, I don't know if that was like a taboo thing or not.
No, I'll tell you right now. I said it before the show, and I'll say it again now. All of the issues that we can talk about in the country, from drilling oil to fracking to human rights to everything, they're all very important, but they become even less important if we don't handle the very distinct possibility of a global conflict, a World War III. So we need a candidate that can show very strong foreign relations and can handle these type of issues without it going off the rails.
So whenever Trump was in office, we shook hands with the leader of North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
That has never happened before. Like,
and Dennis Rodman was out there too.
Like, that was huge. And everyone 6'6". really, really like got on about how, Trump was trying to befriend all of these bad people. Oh, he wants to be buddy with Kim Jong, however you say his name. Yeah. And then, he wants to be friends with Putin and, be buddy with all these people. And I'm like, I don't think that he's trying to be their best friend. I think he's trying to size them up a little bit. Because if you've seen some of the interactions and the ways that he handled these people whenever he'd go talk to them, like he'd be jerking them around whenever he'd go to shake their hand.
Hey, come take this picture.
That's a Trump thing, apparently. Apparently, he grabs people and pulls them in.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
and he's also like 6'5".
Yeah. But it's like, we didn't have any issues though. Like, there were a few times when it was like North Korea's testing some things, and then Trump would be like, I'll hit the red button. And then We didn't hear anything else for a long time. ISIS was huge whenever Trump came into office. And then, like, whenever Trump was in office, I hardly ever heard anything about ISIS anymore. Like, there were just so many things that I noticed kind of stopped whenever he was in office. And then it seemed like as soon as Biden got back in office, it was like all of these things are an issue again. Why? And I don't think that the team that he is building, like the group of people that are coming to surround him right now, you've got JFK Jr., you know,
RFK Jr.
RFK Jr. I keep saying
JFK Jr. died in a plane crash.
I know, I keep saying JFK. RFK Jr., environmental lawyer, wants to, you know, get on the USDA, you know, says that these people are in the pharmaceuticals pockets, and I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I'm going to say he's not wrong. Like, they're poisoning our foods. He wants to get those poisons out of our foods, and that has been a major, major thing in the country with everybody talking
Almost
about.
every other country's already done it.
Ooh, yes, but like, there are so many people that are stepping up now that, like, we want to be healthy. We want to start farming our own food. We want to start homeschooling. We want to get out of this government plague where everything's poisoning our bodies and our minds. And just, you know, I think that that's huge that he, you know, they put their things aside and now he's going to work with Trump. And then you have Elon Musk stepping in and coming in.
Government audit.
Yeah, that's going to be
huge.
Interesting. And then who was the woman that ran? I think she ran as a Democrat. Oh, I can't think of her name. Very, very smart. Like, if they would have actually given her some time to speak at the debates, I might have actually voted for her instead of Trump.
And you know, my whole thing is I don't really care about parties. I really don't. If the only thing that really sucks is if you get a really strong independent candidate, we've historically proven that it's just not going to happen.
Right.
Like
Ross Perot.
Yeah, Ross Perot could have made a huge transformation, but he had no chance. And he had all the money that you could ever wish for. Yeah. Ross Perot was filthy.
Is he still alive?
I think he's passed away. I think so. But my whole point is we need the situation to be de-escalated, and it has to be handled with experience. And here's what I'll say about Harris. She's already been in for 3.5 years, and all the things that she's like, I've got a plan, even though she's not explained what said plan is, and she's not had a public interview since she's been presumed the nominee. She's never said the plan. Like, she's had one interview that was scripted and they had to stick to the questions. And to me, that looks very communist and totalitarian government style. Like, hey, yeah, I'm going to have this interview with you because the public pretty much demands it, but you can only ask me certain questions. And if you try to go off the beaten path, well, then I'll just redirect you. And also, you're from a news organization that's leftist leaning anyway, so we can expect you to be supportive. That's total junk. And so I'm very much looking forward to what happens at the debate, because they've been told they can't have pre-written notes, and they can have a bottle of water and the microphones are going to be muted. Because one of the things that I've noticed that Harris likes to do in previous situations is do the anti-bullying stance, where if she's interrupted, she'll be like, I'm speaking, which shows like power and control. And that's one of her things. Well, she can't do that now because she can't be spoken over. So you say your piece, and then the other candidate will say his piece, and we'll see where it lands. But so far, I've seen no definitive plan of what the Harris administration is going to do to tackle these big issues. I've heard things about drilling and fracking and other little intermediate issues that matter. Yes, don't get me wrong, these issues matter. But the big issue is not having a global conflict or an unbalance of the American dollar for a new currency like BRICS or something of that nature. We need stability, because it could all go wrong very, very, very quickly if we don't have good leadership. And I don't see that strong leadership. And from that party, I don't see any sharing of a plan. Like, you can go to their website right now and there's no agenda. There's This is what I believe when it comes to this. Like, she can say it like, oh, I'm against fracking. Okay, cool. What is that, your firm stance, or are you going to change your mind in 3 months because you did have another stance before? What's your policy? What's your foreign policy? Like, what do you believe? What are you going to go do? Like, you can be like, oh, just wait, guys, I got a plan. Cool. What's your plan? Because I'd like to know before I cast my vote.
Because November's coming soon.
What I'm voting for, because the other candidate, Trump, has come out and said, this is what we're going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. He has been in interviews. He is questionable, and he states what they're going to do, and he's proven it before. He's already been there. We don't like the mean tweets. We don't like his attitude. We don't like the stuff that he said before. He's arrogant. We get that.
But is he getting stuff done, and what are his policies?
So I'm a huge fan of Machiavelli, the prince.
Mm-hmm.
And the overall synopsis is a prince of a principality, a leader, really does need to be firm and strong and feared almost, but the people need to respect them. And I feel that Trump is really good at being firm and strong, but the way that he treats people turns a lot of people off, and they're like, I don't know if I respect him because he doesn't seem to respect people.
But what people are we talking about?
Anything from in 3.5 years.
Also, it was Tulsi Gabbard. That's the woman I was thinking of.
Okay, yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard. She was very, very smart from what I heard whenever she spoke in 2020. Like, I was like, man, I wish they would give her the time of day on the national debate, because I would have loved to have got to see her actually debated. They didn't
give anybody the time of day. RFK Jr. wanted to run Democrat, but that party was like, no, bro. And there are certain things that he was for that I was like, meh, but again, little side issues. And again, people, unfortunately, and other countries have said this about us too, is that we're so inward focused on all of these little things.
Mm-hmm. We major in the minors,
controlling people's lives. Like we have free will, and I'm not saying that you should be able to go around and murder people or steal or whatever. Obviously, you have to have laws against that and so on and so forth. But like, I'm talking about big things. Like, people don't understand what a world conflict does to the economy. You think the economy is bad now. Nobody around right now, except for very, very old people, even understand what the word rationing means.
Right.
Even understand, like,
the good cheese.
Listen, right? Like, listen.
I already said, like, Missouri, we can have that cheese. Like, I'm just
people probably don't know what we're talking about. The strategic cheese reserves.
It's fine. Just look a couple episodes back. Like, that's where we are. But absolutely right. Rationing food. Rationing cigarettes, like, okay, maybe they won't ration cigarettes. You still have to pay $19 for them. But
they'll ration everything, though. Like, listen, you'll see it every once in a while. Just go back and look at like historic pictures of your downtown areas, even here. Like, you'll see something on the wall called Eagle stamps, and I'm not 100,000% familiar with it too. But you had books of stamps, and you could buy certain amounts of flour and certain amounts of sugar. And here's the thing. If you run out of allowed rations for sugar, you can't go to another store and buy it.
And looking on a bigger picture of that, think about, because we have all these poisons in our food and how society as a whole is just completely unhealthy. We all have these addictions now. Could you imagine having an entire society of people having to ration sugars and nicotine and all of these things that were
yeah, I mean, they'll literally they'll look at you and be like, okay, you have 4 people in your family, you get a pound of sugar a month. That's it. And I don't think people understand that. It's not okay, well, you get a pound of sugar a month from Schnucks, and then you can, sneak your way into CVS and buy another pound of sugar. No, nope. If you don't have the ration card for the sugar, you don't get the sugar. And yeah, you can like trade with friends and get other ration cards, but I'm sure you could have back then, but can you now? Because I'm sure to be a card, that is then tracked. But that's the kind of thing that happens in a major world war, because so many resources have to go towards the war, and people don't understand that that kind of stuff happened back then. And so not only are things going to be expensive, but you can only have so much of it.
Right.
And you know, the markets start to dry up because people aren't buying as many things because things are so expensive. It's already happening now. The automotive market is starting to kind of dry up a little bit because people aren't buying new cars, and it happened during COVID. And like this kind of a world war, not just the amount of people that have to go serve in the war and things like selective service where you get drafted, but just the amount of resources that go away because they're being diverted to winning a war. And the kind of war that will be fought today is much different than it was back then. We're talking about cyber attacks, and I'm not even talking about like nuclear war or anything like that. I'm talking about cyber attacks and different crazy stuff like that going on, plus boots on the ground and all the resources going to that. This society would have a very, very difficult time handling that. And when people get into situations where things are rationed like that, it gets nuts. And society,
mental health is so poor right now.
It is. It absolutely is.
I saw an article recently where they were talking about 60% of baby food in America is not fit for consumption because it doesn't meet the necessary vitamins and minerals for babies. And I think about the situation. I just got back from New York with my dad, and in talking with a health specialist, we were talking about how cognitively, like, he's not as there as we would like him to be, or he would like him to be. Like, he doesn't. he recognizes that he forgets things.
Yeah.
I went for a walk one day, and I asked him, "Hey, you want to come with me for a walk?" And he was like, "Sure, let me go shower first." I'm like, "But we're gonna go for a walk. Like, the walk is, we're gonna get sweaty. Like, you shower afterwards." So screw it. I went for my walk. As I'm on my way back home, he's about to get on the bus. I'm like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Where you just were." And where was I? He goes, "Up the road." Where? I got somebody on the phone. Like, I got a business call, just trying to juggle this whole thing. Doors closed. He takes off. I'm like, I'll call you back. Hang up that call. Call my sister. I'm like, "Hey, what's good?" This is what happened, and I have no idea where our father went. And she goes, "Okay, which direction did he go?" "Well, he took the 17 up the hill." "Oh, I know where he's going." This is something that he does. Like, he has these routines that he just does. So in this conversation with this healthcare specialist, they mentioned, like, I brought up type 3 diabetes, insulin in the brain, blocking the ability to get access to those memories, which makes a lot of sense. She mentioned ridding his body of heavy metals. And that right there, I was like, oh, that's not even something that I had thought of. But with the way that we grow our food and where we get our food from, the soil, all of the issues, the pesticides that we're using, like all of that we're now consuming, and it's now literally rotting us from the top down. It's like, oh, wow, damn, like, that wasn't even a thing.
And there's a lot of information out there. It's hard to know what to trust, because you have to a certain extent trust what science is saying, because it's science, and obviously not all of us have degrees. You can't just go out and do, your own Google research and suddenly have a PhD and be an expert in it. But you do have to realize that, the government allows certain amounts and levels of things in foods. Like, if the general person knew what kind of levels of contaminants were allowed in certain foods, they probably never eat them again.
Well, that's just like not here recently. They came out and said that Lunchables have like a ridiculous amount of lead in them. But whenever I was I was looking into it, like, California has certain limits on things, and
everything gives you cancer in California.
Right. I've bought products at the store that says, like, not, you can't use in California.
Well, because they have levels on them. It's like the government, like, I read this a long time ago, but tuna is allowed a certain percentage of
mercury.
foreign contaminants.
Oh, like, not just mercury.
Well, I mean, like, listen, okay, so I had a buddy a long time ago, and we're going to try to do this quick because we're running out of time. But a buddy a long time ago that worked at a factory that did meat processing, and they made hot dogs. And he's like, listen, in the morning when you start the machines up, you got to spray water through them for a while because it's not great. We clean them when we shut them down in the evening, but when you start them up in the morning, there's things in them. And I'll leave it up to people's imagination of what kind of things could be in machines after they sat all night, that machines that process food. He's like, so you run, water through them, but at some point you got to stop and start running the product through it.
Yeah. So, there's a certain level of,
right. I mean, like, listen,
material for hamburgers.
Right. When you're shipping things, stuff's going to get into them and you can't completely clean it all out. And there's an allowance for that. Like, people would think, oh, no, it's perfectly safe. No, it's not.
Unless you killed it yourself.
Right. And processed it yourself.
Process it like sausage. Okay, cool. You're going to do it yourself. I mean, after you do it the first time, you probably won't ever want to do that again. But you make your own bacon. Okay.
That ties in with some of the other conspiracy stuff that I read. What how do you pronounce that medicine that everyone was talking about during COVID? Ivermectin. Okay. So that is you can buy it at Trader Joe's for horses.
It's a dewormer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are starting to use that whenever they get a cancer diagnosis, and they're starting to see their cancer shrink or go away completely.
I've heard that too.
And I've been reading and seeing people talk about how they, growing up, did a parasite cleanse like once a month. Their parents made them take a dewormer basically at home. They did a parasite cleanse, and like it was completely normal. Like that's a normal thing that they do, and they don't get sick as often as everybody else around them. And it just makes me wonder, on top of all the poisons that are in our food, like some of the stuff that we're eating, it's introducing parasites into our body, and we're getting all of these weird not just cancers, but like I have 3 cysts in my body right now that are apparently harmless, that, are different sizes, but I'm like, why are people getting these cysts in their bodies that are not small, and they're not cancer? We don't know why people are getting them though. Like, we don't know why this grows on this specific organ, but we just leave it alone. Why? That doesn't sound normal to me.
Right.
And it just makes me wonder. But I've seen enough stories and I've seen enough people that are saying like, hey, I'm not doing chemotherapy. This is the only thing that I am taking. And the doctors are standing here scratching their heads because they don't know what's happening.
Well, the doctors
all they know is
what
the
they've
cancer.
been trained.
Right. Exactly. It's the same thing with whenever Darren Miller was taking the, RSO oil. Yep. And they told him that his cancer was inoperable and he was going to die.
Yep.
And, he didn't.
Yeah.
And he, to the point where that doctor was on board. He's like, I don't know what you did, but I need to know so that I can.
But doctors have to play it safe, because here's the thing: we used to have a whole holistic medicine culture in this country.
Yeah.
I mean, and we've talked about that before, where like, the honey and garlic mixed together, and like even simple things like that.
Yep.
But what science has done on the extreme side, and don't get me wrong, there's some pluses to that too. You can't always yell big pharma wants to kill everybody, because there have been medical advancements that have extended lifespan. Mm-hmm. But what they have done is they've said, okay, we can't condone a medical doctor going out and saying, oh, just chew on a ginger root, and that'll help your thing
irritable bowel syndrome.
Right, whatever. Because here's the problem. And this is where there needs to be some logic and understanding and some give on the part of the FDA and stuff. I understand where they're coming from, because if I am a medical doctor and I say, okay, Bryan, you have irritable bowel syndrome and it's really terrible, chew on this ginger root twice a day and you're good to go. And that works for you. Whatever ginger root you purchase and however much of it you consume works for Bryan.
That it might not work for me.
It might not work for Taylor, or it might hurt Taylor because Taylor takes too much ginger root.
Or Taylor's allergic to it.
Well, and it's not even that, but like, I don't know how many milligrams of ginger root you're going to get from pulling a ginger root out of your garden and chewing on it.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that I weigh like twice as much as.
But if I prescribe you 50 milligrams of ginger root extract that is in the form of a pill that has been refined and made into a caplet from a pharmaceutical company, I know exactly how much you're getting. And by practicing medicine, we can then determine that, oh, I need, when you're sick, to give you 500 milligrams of amoxicillin to battle your ear infection. And because you're a bigger guy, you need 1,000 milligrams of amoxicillin. Taylor, you're in here for the same thing. You only need 500 milligrams twice a day of amoxicillin to take care of the same ear infection. I can be precise with that and get it every time. But if I tell you, again, with the ginger root, I might cure your whatever, and I might leave Taylor hanging or overdose Taylor on ginger root.
Well, so like you said, it's practicing medicine. Nothing is an exact science whenever it comes to medicine, because I might be allergic to something that Bryan can take that heals him, or I might be able to take something that Bryan's not allergic to, but he has some side effects to it. Or there are things that are completely normal, like amoxicillin, that people take every day that somebody almost dies from taking. Like, nobody knows.
That's what happened with penicillin, and to the fact that most medical professionals don't even prescribe it anymore.
Oh yeah, it'll make my throat close and I'll die.
Right, because for you, that's what happens. For me, it works perfectly. So we overuse amoxicillin, and then we create drug-resistant
strains of
bacteria and stuff that don't respond to them anymore because they've gotten used to the amoxicillin. But again, it comes back to, yes, the honey and garlic that's been steeped together in a thing that works. That's good. But how many milligrams of garlic is it?
So here's what's wild.
Well, why aren't the doctors, before you go, what steered us away from those things though? Because if we can get it down to the milligram of, all of these hard drugs, and I'm not even talking about like the things like I've got a cold and I need, or I've got a strep throat and I need amoxicillin. Like, there's a whole pandemic now because years ago they said, oh, here, this Oxycontin won't get you addicted to,
Oh, the epidemic,
like there's.
Because it all comes down to what people want to do with holistic medicine. And I believe in holistic medicine. There's a lot of good remedies out there that can be given, but I want to get let's just take fish oil for example. I said
pandemic, didn't I?
Yeah, it's fine though.
It's okay.
I take fish oil, but I take prescription fish oil. It's been refined.
Right.
Okay. And so I know how many milligrams of that fish oil that I am getting, but in holistic medicine, I want to go to some little shop that has, tea tree leaves on the shelf and take those tea tree leaves and put them in a thing and push them through a French press and drink it. And there's my cure. Well, what you've said in reference to hard drugs, everything that's a hard drug, some of which have been synthesized from chemical components, but like if we're talking about fish oil, like they've taken the fish oil from the fish and then refined it, taken the impurities out of it and put it in a capsule. If you bust one of these prescription fish oil capsules that I have open and smell it, it smells fishy.
Yes.
Like it's in a capsule and it dissolves and you never smell it and you never taste it ever. Unless no, I don't even get that. Unless you bust it open. Yeah. Like I don't even get that. But so that's what it comes down to. What people don't realize is they've said for opiates and narcotics and stuff like that, they have taken the cocaine, you look at things that still contain cocaine, and they've refined it and put very finite amounts of it into things to make it work in medicines and made it a controlled substance, because they know, like any average Joe that has some chemical knowledge can make cocaine get you high. Any average Joe that has chemical knowledge can put a bunch of chemicals together and make methamphetamine. But we're going to refine it, put it in a pill so we know exactly how much you got. Because if you go the holistic route, I could be like, oh yeah, if you just take you look back and people took cocaine and morphine and stuff like that back in the day over the counter to take care of it, and they knew it would take care of it. But like a lot of people died because like you can overdose on that stuff. So like, bro, I'm going to give you X amount of milligrams because I know that it won't kill you, because I've already said, okay, she weighs X amount of pounds. Here's this pill that won't murder you, but it will take care of your symptoms. Whereas I have to give him 2, like that's the whole problem with the holistic medicine thing, is that like, okay, the honey and garlic thing works, but how much for him versus how much for you?
I think it's just all greed.
Well, there's a lot of greed involved.
I think that's the majority of it is greed. And
you got to take a pill for
conspiracy. Like I can't get away from it.
But I also think that if we didn't have modern medicine up to the level that we have it now, most of us would be looking at not being alive for very much longer.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that there's not benefits to it, but I feel like at one point it was like, hey, we know that people are going to need this. So we know we can charge this amount of money and people are going to find a way to pay for it.
But to me, that's a whole different part of the problem. The fact that we've developed these modern medications and certain vaccines that have eradicated things up until people became anti-vaxxers. And I'm not talking about the COVID-19 vaccine at all. There are
people who don't want to get their kids vaccinated for like school.
And then these diseases that have been gone for generations are coming back.
Right. Yeah. And they're coming back like smallpox. It's coming back in a weird mutated way that's like significantly more offensive to the human body.
It's been gone for so long. It's like, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like
I remember during the pandemic, I had a cold. Okay. I had no idea I had a cold. I thought I was doing Lyft. I thought I legitimately had like COVID. So I took like 3 COVID tests. I took a flu test too. And the doctor was like, yeah, dude, I think you just got a common cold. And I'm like, when did that happen? I don't get colds, but it's the idea of not being in proximity with other people. I remember growing up, my mom used to, my parents are from Barbados, and we used to, on a daily basis, like mom would have us drink Cersei. What the hell is Cersei? It's a bush that you literally would just boil, and it was very bitter, but that stuff would get everything out of you. That and Ferrol, and that was it. Ferrol was basically fish oil, but like it's just a tablespoon of that and a cup of and it was, I don't know. But ultimately, really the pharmaceutical company itself, the pharmaceutical companies, they're doing everything they can to assist us enough. And I don't want it to get to a point where it's like Ketracel White, back to Star Trek.
Nobody knows what that is.
Ketracel White, where it's like, well, it wasn't a problem until it was introduced to us, and now we absolutely need it. So
yeah,
folks, there's plenty of stuff out there. We definitely got to do some research. Don't just blindly go and just like do some research, figure some things out. There are plenty of resources out there. The dirt sheets, kind of like Men in Black, the National Enquirer was like, oh yeah, this is where things are really happening.
Don't be extreme on either side.
Right. And balance is absolutely key. It is critical. You need to be able to critically think about what's happening.
Critical thinking. Yes.
Yes. Critical thinking.
Yeah.
Think legitimately and logically about what's happening. Take your emotions out of it, because in most cases, this stuff is life or death. I do want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We're going to call it a night.
Yeah, and thank you for Brenda for letting us use your facilities.
Yes, indeed.
Right behind the Garden Gate Tea Room.
Studio B.
I want to plug myself real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I am running for Ward 4 Alderman. So, yeah, keep your eyes out. Got some signs made and been going around talking to people in the neighborhoods. It's been some really, really good conversations, and I'm really excited about that. So I just wanted to say hi.
Awesome.
This is our Taylor. Engineer Bill, thank you. Taylor, thank you.
Thank you. Bryan with a Y.
Your favorite guy.
Yeah.
This has been an absolute pleasure guest hosting again, and I look forward to doing it at some point in the future. You can catch us Mondays at 7:15 right here at Studio B, right behind the Garden Gate Tea Room. And you guys stay cool, stay awesome. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're not. Have a great night.